Hello and welcome to the oddschecker St Leger preview video and podcast. I am your host, George Elek, and I'm joined as ever by oddschecker's expert tipster, Andy Holding. Andy, great to have you with me today. It's just you and I, a little bit lonely in here, but no shortage of quality racing for us to get through at Doncaster this weekend.
Yeah, it's one of the best weekends on the flat season, isn't it? Doncaster culminating with their marquee races at Leger. It looks as though it's got a good competitive field in it as well. And adding into the mix the Irish stuff as well over in Leopardstown with their Champions weekend. So a cracking day in store. And of course, we've got the Arc Trials as well on Sunday. So lots to get stuck into.
Absolutely loads. We're going to be focusing here on Doncaster, as Andy mentioned. We're going to touch on the Stand Cup at Chester as well on Saturday, and we'll finish off with a quick chat on the Group 1 on Saturday as well over at Leopardstown. But for the most part, this is going to be all about Donny, and we're going to kick off with the two Group 2s tomorrow on the card. We're recording this on Thursday morning, so these prices are for tomorrow. Hopefully they won't change too much in the meantime, and we're basically waiting for the markets to reform for Saturday. So hopefully by the time we get there, after all the final decks, we'll have an idea of where we are. Before though we start, just going to point you in the direction of the oddschecker app. Make sure you download it now as your companion for this podcast or this video, whichever way you are digesting this content, for the very best prices, the best bookie offers, the best free bets, and the very best tipsters in the game, including the man who is on the line with me right now. But we're going to start with the 240 tomorrow. It's the Bombardier Flying Childers Stakes, the Group 2, raced over 5 furlongs at Doncaster. It's at 240 tomorrow, and Sacred is the current 11-4 favourite, although a bit of blue around on oddschecker, as short as 9-4 in places. So I do wonder if that 11-4 might be a thing of the past fairly soon. The Learjet is 9-2, Steel Bull 5-1, Frenetic 7-1, 10-1 bar, 11 running at the moment, Andy. A fair few of them with decent shouts. You're a big time figures man here. A few of these only with 3 or 4 runs under their belt. So who is taking your fancy at the moment?
Well, I think the market's got the right favourite, but based on pure form, and that's Sacred. As we know, she's one of the best fillies we've seen so far this season. Second to Campanelle in the Queen Mary at Royal Ascot, stood the test, hasn't it, over the last few months, with so many horses coming out of that race and franking the form, including the winner, of course, who went on to win next time out in Deauville. And she then came here to the Lowther. She went to York for the Lowther Stakes, and albeit she got beat, she just left the impression that day that 5 furlongs was always going to be her best trip. Her first 2 runs very much suggested that. She's dropping back to the minimum trip here on Friday. Flat 5 furlongs should be ideal. They're going to go a strong pace. I'll touch upon several strong front runners in this race, but she should be able to sit in behind the pace with her cruising speed. And as regards a horse that travels well over 5 with a quickening turn of foot like she's got, as I said, I think she's just about the right favourite.
So Sacred just about the right favourite at 11-4. Any that you're looking at who could be the kind of the main one to serve it up to Sacred at bigger prices?
There's a lot of depth to this race, George. There's no doubt about that. You know, you're chucking the likes of the Learjet, the Norfolk Stakes winner. Then you've got the Morecambe winner, Steel Bull. But you've also got 2 horses that have been plying their trade to a very high standard over in Ireland. Frenetic, one of them, a very, very fast filly trained by Ger Lyons. Managed to win last time out. Get her due rewards, really, for a lot of consistent efforts in Group 2 races. She got beat by Miss Amulet at Naas early on in the season. So she's not a million miles away where Sacred is regards form and time figures, and she's drawn right in the centre as well, which should mean that she'll get a clear run shot of things down the centre. But there is another horse in this race that I do think is likely to be underestimated and overlooked. That's Measure of Magic from the Johnny Murtagh stable. Johnny Murtagh brought over Urban Beat yesterday to good effect, finished second in the Group 3 contest for the older horses. And albeit this horse got beat fair and square on the day at Navan last time out, that was over a very, very stiff 5.5 furlongs in the Ballyhane Stakes, which was run at a true gallop. But it was a day where there was a massive track bias. Everything that won that day on the straight track came over towards the near side rail. Chief Little Hawker won the race, was drawn 18 of 18. Now, Measure of Magic was the only one that was rowing her own boat on the far side rail. But she managed to lead down to the furlong pole, and she looked like winning, actually. She touched odds on in running, but she faded due to the fact she was running on the slower ground. I massively upgraded her effort. And if you go back and look at her run previously, behind Frenetic and Miss Amulet, when she just didn't quite get home on soft ground over a stiff 5 furlongs, I think this, similarly to Sacred and to Frenetic, is going to be right up her street. A very fast run, 5 furlongs on a flat track on good ground is what Measure of Magic is all about. She's 14 to 1, which doesn't look a bad price from where I'm sitting. So she's definitely one on the short list for tomorrow's Flying Shoulders.
Measure of Magic 14 to 1. That's with Bet365, William Hill, 888, Bet Victor, Betfred, Boyle Sports, Genting, Sport Nation, and Red Zone. So plenty of it around, as you can tell on the oddschecker app. Moving on to the second Group 2 on tomorrow's card at Doncaster. The Bet365 Doncaster Cup race just over 2 miles and 2 furlongs. And Spanish Mission is the favourite, 15 to 8. Revolver, the ever improving Revolver, is 7 to 2. Eagles by Day, 9 to 2. Red Verdon, 7 to 1. Salino, 10 to 1. 12 to 1. The Grand Vizier. Island Brave, 33 to 1. 7 runners here, Andy. A bit of a different shape to this one compared to the race we're just talking about, over 2 miles and 2 furlongs, as opposed to the stiff 5 furlongs. Do you think the market has got this stamina test about right, or are there any that you fancy at the prices currently on offer?
Yeah, I do think there's one that's slightly overpriced. We'll get onto him in a minute, but Spanish Mission, I think, is the right favourite. Again, I've got no qualms with that. Whether I back him at 7-4 is open to question, but he looked good the last day at Chester. There's a far cry from running in those, heady heights of the Group 1s he's been contesting, and on a decent surface, he's probably about the pick of this lot. It's a shame that Nayaf Road doesn't run here, because he would have been a really good each way bet. I think he was around about 5-6 to 1 when Nayaf Road was in there, but now with him out, he's found his way to the top of the market. So he makes little appeal to me at the price. Revolver's been one of the stories of the season, isn't it? I mean, he hasn't missed a beat. Now rated 98, but whether he can, run against genuine Group 2 horses here is open to question. But the one that's overpriced, and he quoted 7 to 1 about Red Verdon, if that is correct. I do think he's a smidgen of value. Now, he's got to prove himself over this kind of trip. Most of his best forms in and around the 1 mile 6 stroke 2 mile category. But if they don't go overly quick here, and there isn't an obvious front runner, and Frankie settles him, he's got a good chance of taking this, because what this horse has got is a devastating turn of foot, particularly on good ground. He loves it here at Doncaster as well. He's 2 for 2 here at the track, including a win first time up this season when he beat King's Advice. He then went to Longchamp last time out, or the time after, and he beat a horse called Call to the Bar, who's a very good horse over in France. The ground was against him last time out against Telecaster at Deauville the other day, when it was heavy. He just doesn't handle heavy ground, so you can cast that aside. But Frankie's back on him, and he's just the kind of jockey, isn't he, Frankie, to kind of like finesse this horse along and get him to produce his best at the end. So it's 7 to 1. That doesn't look a tempting bet as far as I can see.
7 to 1 Red Verdon. That's with Bet365, Betfair, Paddy Power. Let's pretty talk about Revolver though, because it's one of the stories, I guess, of the flat season in terms of handicapping, up from a mark of about 58, I think, up to near 100 now. What do you make of these kind of improving handicappers when they suddenly, quite clearly have the constitution to win and to improve, stepping up into this kind of company?
Well, if you have a look at this horse's winning margins, it's no wonder that he's managed to get away with it, because he's got to the front and he's basically dossed. But in dossing, when he's at the front, he's only been winning by a length and a half maximum. Sometimes he has managed to stretch out a little bit further than that. But basically, the handicapper can only give him what he's been beaten and by. So he's been going up steady increments, 6s, 5s, 7s, when really he probably should have always been a 90 horse in the first place. And Mark's taken full advantage of it. But this is a massive step up, as we know, from beating the likes of Funnyman last time out at Pontefract. He hasn't got a turn of foot Revolver. The one thing he does do is just gallop all day long. So I think Luke will probably try and draw the stamina out of perhaps Spanish Mission and Red Verdon, who I touched upon. I've got useful turn of foots at their end of their races. So I think he's going to have to be ridden very aggressively to suck the life out of his main market rivals.
So Red Verdon certainly the pick there, and interesting hearing your thoughts on Revolver now as well. We'll move on now to the racing on Saturday, and I think the markets are just starting to reform.
Good news.
Bear with me with these prices, because these are hot off the press, and I apologise massively if they are out of date by the time you're listening, but it's better to have prices than none at all. And Paddy Power have come out with the betting for the Champagne Stakes, the Bet365 Champagne Stakes, the Group 2, raced over for 7 furlongs, and Al Bashir is the 13-8 favourite ahead of Chindit at 4-1, Mujbar 5-1, Devious Company 10-1, 12-1 St Lawrence, State of Rest 16-1, Broxy 25-1. At the moment, there are 7. Well, finally, there are 7 runners, so not a great each way shape to the race. Sadly, even with a 13-8 favourite, Andy, these are probably the first times you're hearing these prices. What do you make on first reaction?
First reaction, I think Chindit's probably the overpriced one of the front end of the market. I mean, his form when he won at Ascot last time, he's far greater than Al Bashir's form. Now, Al Bashir was very impressive on the eye, not necessarily on the clock. He clocked a fair enough time when he won over the course and distance, but it was more of his back end sectionals which made him look good. They went no gallop early on, and he beat a pretty modest field. I mean, the second, and third, and fourth have all got beat since. But if you look at Chindit's win at Ascot, there's a much more deeper race than the one that Al Bashir took, who went on to beat Fancy Man next to man at Salisbury. The second horse, Naval Crown, went on to win the Convivial Maiden, and then he finished third in a Group 3 race next time out. And St Lawrence, who was fourth, who reopposes again here in this race, he won next time out too. So that form at the Ascot race is looking a little bit tasty. We know what Richard Hannon's 2-year-olds are about all this season. He's got a very good crop of horses. Happy Romance, of course, probably one of the ones that's flying the flag. But I think this Chindit is rather a little bit under the radar. We haven't really been talking about him. But that Ascot form is very solid. I think 4-1's a really big price for him. I could see him not necessarily vying for favouritism on the up, but he won't be anywhere near 4-1. I think they'll come a little bit closer together when people realise the slight error of judgment that the bookmakers have made. And I'd certainly wouldn't totally count out State of Rest either. I heard you quote 16-1 for him. He was a good Ballyhone race, which I touched upon in an earlier preview, which contained the likes of Minister, Monasab, and of course the winner, Chief Little Hawk. Minister won next time out at Down Royal. There was a lot of good strength in depth in that race. The 6 horses won. The time figure was very good, and he was the best of the horses that were drawn low that day. Again, I've upgraded the horses that were drawn low and ran well from a low store position. And, you know, Devious Company was well beat that day as well. So I can't believe that he is 16-1 and Devious Company is single figures. I think he'll beat Devious Company very easily. And I do think this track will play more into the strengths of State of Rest than it has been over in Ireland, where sometimes he hasn't got going until very late. The Leopardstown the time before, it was a bit of a, behind Military Sound, it was a bit of a stop-start gallop, and it was a short straight to Leopardstown. He never got a chance to really get up ahead of steam. Similar last time at Navan over 6 furlongs. But I think a straight 7, if they go a gallop, will really suit State of Rest. So there's more than one way of skinning a cat. I'd probably look at this race and I'd probably have to back Chindit, but I'd also have a little bit of an exotic bet on State of Rest. I'd probably back him to win small at 16, but I'd also back him in the 3-place market when it matures on Saturday. A lot of firms will be betting 3 places. If you can get somewhere in and around the 2-1, 5-2 mark for him to finish in the top 3, probably be very interested in that wager as well.
Interesting. A couple of ways to go. As I mentioned, these are hot off the press, and I'm very sorry if that State of Rest at 16-1 is a thing of the past by the time you are watching or listening to this, because these markets, when they reform, are pretty prone to change as the other bookies come out as well. But at the moment, Chindit 4-1 and State of Rest 16-1. Just 7 runners, remember, so just the 2 places backing it each way as you usually would. Although if you wait, as Andy said, till Saturday, you can use the 3-place market. On now to the Bet365 Portland Handicap, and the good people at Bet365, the sponsors, have helped me out massively by just putting a market up. So we are living on the edge here, Andy, but we're getting away with it at the moment. The places are a quarter, the 4 as it stands, and it's a very open race with A Moment of Madness is 7-1, Soldier's Minute 8-1, Arecibo 10-1, Jawal 11-1, Concheck 12-1, Barbill 14s alongside Danzino, Just Another Bottle, Miras, Mountain Peak, Ovar, Saluti. I think in all the years we've been doing this, Andy, I've never had to read out 7 horses the same price. So that's very exciting, if nothing else.
Wow, yeah, it's a first.
Well, what do we think about, solving the riddle of the Portland Handicap here?
Probably course and distance form is the way to go, isn't it, here at Doncaster? Wentworth Falls has to come into the equation. He was 4th in this race last year. He's already won a good handicap over the track this season. He's likely to be there or thereabouts. He's drawn right in the middle. He likes these strongly run races. Anywhere between 5 and 6 furlongs is right up his street. You'd certainly have to factor in A Moment of Madness, who's potentially very well handicapped now. And of course, he won this race before 2 years ago. I think Oxted actually won it last year. So it's a race that's obviously got a bit of quality about it. Another one as well, who finally got his just rewards when winning the other day at Chester. But he was very unlucky the time before here at Doncaster beyond Young Tiger, when he didn't get a clearest of runs. I think he might have won that day. A bit disappointed in this race last year, but he got drawn badly. Yeah, I think with the Midgley horses in good form, Tarbouche, of course, won the big race yesterday, Scarborough Stakes. So that's a positive mention for that stable. My two early thoughts. Nothing set in stone or concrete yet. Whether I'll tip in this race, I'm not sure. But if I were to, then certainly Wentworth Falls and Orvar would be two on my shortlist.
So Wentworth Falls, as you mentioned, having to find it 16-1. So couldn't even get there in my preview. And who is the other one you said?
Orvar.
And Orvar is 14-1. So two good ones against the field there. As you mentioned, A Moment of Madness is favourite at 7-1. That's in the Bet365 Portland Handicap. I'm going to see if there are prices for the next. If not, then what we'll do is go to the Leger. No prices as it stands at the moment for the Park Stakes. Hopefully we can come back to it, but we're going to skip on a race to the big one, Andy, and let's give the St Leger the coverage that it deserves. 12 run in the St Leger this year. Santiago and Pyledriver with Bet365, the first firm out, are joint favourites ahead of Hukum at 7-2. Galileo Chrome 6-1. English King 10-1. Dawn Patrol 14-1 alongside Subjectivist. Mythical is 33-1 alongside Mohican Heights, Berkshire Rocco and Sunchart, with Tyson Fury at 50-1. I dread the headlines if Tyson Fury manages to get up at big odds here. Andy, solve us the St Leger, the 2020 St Leger.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this race. There's three or four really stellar colts in this contest, as we know, who bring excellent form to the table. Most notably Pyledriver, winner of the Great Voltager. One of the stories of the season, really. Love to see a smaller stable like William Muir having a good colt in their midst. And like I say, when he's got a good horse, he's proven that he's knows exactly how to train it. And his performance at York very much stands out as one of the best pieces of form coming into the Leger. He beat a good field. Mogul was in there, of course, who won well the time before at Goodwood. It was a well-run race, and he showed a really good turn of foot as well. He actually showed a better turn of foot than Gaiath on the same card that day from 4 out. So his back-end sectionals are very good. He was a bit unlucky in the Derby. Everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. He got bumped at the start, never got into a good position, and that was his game over, really. I think they've give this race plenty of thought, reading between the lines, because I think they genuinely feel as though this horse's turn of foot is so useful. To stretch him over and extend him mile 6 is a little bit of a risk, and they were going to save him perhaps for the Arc de Triomphe, but there is only one more Group 1 race left and one more Classic left, and I think having missed out on the Derby, Connections would be ruining it for a lifetime if they didn't at least give him a chance to sign off with a Classic win. He certainly deserves to be in this lineup, and he's one of the few that you could give every box ticked. He's got every box ticked. I wouldn't be as mad keen on Santiago, perhaps, as I would be Pyledriver or Hukum. Just something about that run last time out at Goodwood which left me a little bit cold. He had all the allowances in that race won by Stradivarius in the end, and he just didn't quite get home for one reason or another. He scrambled home in the Irish Derby when really Tiger Moth should have beaten him that day. So I wouldn't be. It wouldn't surprise me if he won, but I certainly wouldn't back him at 3-1. I do like Hukum. I think he's going forward in a rush. I like the way he's been campaigned. Right since the day when he won first time out at Kempton, he's always looked a nice horse. Been campaigned excellently by Aaron Burrows with very much a view to bring him along. And he deserves his place in this lineup courtesy of victory at Royal Ascot in that excellent King George Handicap, which has thrown up a huge amount of winners subsequently. The time figure was very good. And then he took on the older horses last time out at Newbury, stepping up in trip. And he met that challenge head on as well with great aplomb. He won by 2.5 lengths, beating Max Vega and Alignac, who'd previously locked horns with Trushan. So there's a bit of substance to that form. You've got to like the way he went through that race, the way he quickened. He actually quickened up in a similar sectional time to Dream of Dreams that day, who won the Hungerford Stakes over 7 furlongs. So this horse has got a good turn of foot. And quite nicely as well, he's drawn his stall 1. It means that Jim Crowder can ride a race for him round the inside. He doesn't have to exert any energy trying to get any cover or whatever. He can just flop out, go round the rail, and just do what he likes until bringing this horse into action around about the 3 furlong pole. So of the front 3 in the market, I think Hukum would be the one I'd want to be with, but he's not necessarily my first pick.
So Hukum 7-2 and Pyledriver 11-4 there. I mean, let's talk about some of the ones at bigger prices. English King, of course, after winning that Lingfield trial, was all the talk ahead of the Derby, but has failed to really go on from there. It's been disappointing, but you'd expect maybe has something left in the tank. A couple of other ones at big prices. Berkshire Rocco, maybe another one who's disappointed. I mean, are there any of these that you could see massively turning around some disappointing form in order to trouble the principals?
Well, hot off the press, I think Ed Walker's just come on ATR and gave us a full debrief on the likely target for English King. I think he runs in France on Sunday.
Okay.
They've just entered him in this just in case they can't travel, but providing all the travelling's okay, he'll definitely go. So he's going to be out.
Yeah.
But there is one horse in this race I think could have the beating of the front 3 in the market, and that's Galileo Chrome. I'm really pleased that Connections has decided to bite the bullet with this fella and run him here. But his numbers when he won at Navan last time out were very, very good. He actually ran the fastest speed figure that we've got anyway on our sheet, courtesy of that 5-length romp over Emperor of the Sun and Red Kelly. Now it might have only been a listed race, that Yates Stakes, but it was replete with very, very good improving 3-year-olds, and he absolutely battered them. And don't forget, early on in the season as well, when this horse won his maiden, he had none other than the Derby winner Serpentine 3.5 lengths back in 5th. So it's not as if he's just leapt out of the ground from nowhere. He's been beating some good fodder over in Ireland. The fast ground will suit. His victory at the Curragh was on good to firm ground. So with the drying ground, it shouldn't be a problem. Stall 12 could be a little bit of a problem. I would hope Connections would look at that draw and maybe just think, okay, we'll take our medicine and drop him right out from stall 12 rather than, get him no cover on the outside and get him all stranded and, seeing too much daylight, because you can come from a long way back at Doncaster and being held up at the back is not a bad option anyway. So those would be my 2 against the field. Hukum, and at the prices, I think Galileo Chrome's a really solid each way bet around about the 6-1 mark.
Galileo Chrome 6-1 as it stands. A couple more firms have come out since we started talking about it, and Hills are 6-1 as well, and so are Sky Bet. So I'm afraid I can't do you any better than 6-1 as it stands at the moment, Andy.
I'm happy with that.
But you are happy with that. No prices, annoyingly, for the Park Stakes, but we'll just discuss the field because at least we know who will be running and we can see the ones maybe to keep an eye on. Limato will ahead of One Master and Wichita, with Molathem, Breathtaking Look, Shine So Brightly, Urban Icon and Marie's Diamond making up the race. 8 runners as it stands, Andy. Who are you going to be keeping a beady eye on when the bookies do put their prices up in the next hour or so?
Well, this race has got the dead 8 runners at the moment, so this is more like it. Limato bound to be favoured, as you say, even though we've got no prices. He's won this race before. And he's in sparkling good form. He has to have a rest between each race because he puts so much effort into his races. He's quite a light frame type, so he wouldn't take a whole pile of action throughout the season. I think, Henry Candy should be applauded for the way he's brought this horse along all the way through his career. He's 8 years old now, and he's still running to his absolute maximum capacity. It'd take a very good horse to lower his colours. I think the ground might be a bit of an issue for One Master. It's currently good to soft in places, but I don't think there'll be any good to soft on Saturday. I think it's going to be more good or even quicker if that drying wind gets into the ground and the temperature rises. And he was left floundering by Safe Voyage last time out at York. So I'm left with Breathtaking Look as being the each-way option. Now, she's improved remarkably in the last season or so from a handicapper now into a fully fledged Group 2, Group 3 horse. And her victory at Dover last time out on the straight track suggests that she's coming in here in excellent form. And she was second to Dream of Dreams the time before in the Hungerford on ground that was probably not right up her street. But given decent ground, she's got a beautiful stride, this horse, and she's already won here at the track, so clearly the Town Moor surface suits her. She's drawn a bang in the middle as well, so Andrea Acquasini can go right down the tip of the arrow. So if I can get some kind of nice each-way price over 5-1 for Breathtaking Look, that's probably the route I'd go down come Saturday.
So what would be so for people who are listening to this now, what would be kind of the threshold where you'd be looking to back Breathtaking Look?
I would say they'll bet Limato favourite, One Master second favourite, Wichita third in. But I'd be surprised if Breathtaking Look isn't at least 4 favourite. So you're probably looking in around the 6-7-1 mark.
I've got some good news for you, Andy. This is great. We should do this more often. William Hill have come out as we speak, which is incredibly exciting. This is a podcast and video first. So I can now tell you the odds after we've spoken about the race. So the Otto 5-2, one master 11-4.
There you go.
Wichita 9-2.
Yeah.
Molathem 11-2.
Right.
Wait for this. Hold your breath. Breathtaking look 10-1.
Yeah, slightly bigger than I would have thought.
Get on the phone to Billy Hill.
Yeah, that's me. Obviously pricing the horse of how I see it rather than how other people see it, which is all about opinions, isn't it? I think 10-1's a shade bigger than what I would have thought.
Yeah, but presumably, a bit very happy with that in terms of.
I'm very happy with that. Yeah, it's not often that it usually goes the other way, so it's nice to get one against the head.
So breathtaking at 10-1, Urban Icon 14-1, Shine So Bright 16-1, Marie's Diamond 18-1. Maybe, Andy, this is how we should do it in the future. We should talk about all the races and then we'll come out with the prices afterwards.
Price them up ourselves and then we can either be disappointed or not.
The tissue podcast would be great. Let's move on then. That is Doncaster done and dusted for Saturday. We're now going to look ahead. I'm going to see if there are prices currently for the race at Chester that we're going to be looking at. It is the Stand Cup, sponsored by the Injured Jockeys Fund, who, of course, we at oddschecker have got a great relationship and encourage anybody listening and watching to look into the work that they do. Looking now to the 205, which, as I say, is the Stand Cup, no prices, but Alignac is the likely market leader, along with Mirando, Universal Order, Hereby, and Time Voyage. Just the 5 runners at the moment, Andy. Who do you think, firstly, should be the favourite when the prices do come out?
Alignac, no doubt about that. He was very well back, wasn't it, Newbury last time out? He obviously coming up against a very good horse in the shape of Hukum, who might win the St Leger on the same day, a little bit later. But I think that's the best form coming in here. He's steadily improved since being a top-class handicapper through the ranks. He went from, I think, a rating of 96 to 108 in one fell swoop when he just got short-headed by Trushan in a listed race at Haydock early on in the season. So both his last 2 runs suggested he's holding his own in this kind of company. I wouldn't have any reservations about the track. He's a quite well-balanced horse, so that shouldn't be an issue. He's likely to get a reasonably run race as well, because Hereboy's in the lineup, as well as Universal Order. They both like to make the running, so he should get a truly run race. It's probably a race I won't tip it on Saturday. There'll be a whole bets around. From a selection point of view, anyway, in this race now, when we're looking at it, I think Alignac will be the one.
Alignac will be the one there. And what kind of prices do you reckon open up when they come back out?
I think it'll be about a 7 or 4 shot, something in around that mark.
Okay, 7 or 4 shot around about there. I'm going to now just quickly touch on, we know that you love your stuff over in Ireland, Andy, and we probably don't speak to you enough about it, but we have an opportunity to here, and the prices are out.
Wait.
Hooray! Well done, William Hill. Thank you very much again to the guys over there. The 310 at Leopardstown is a Group 1, some Group 1 action on a Saturday over there. It is a fillies and mares, the Coolmore America Justify Matron Stakes. And we have Fancy Blue is the 13-8 favourite, ahead of Peaceful at 2-1. Albinia 7-1. Champers Elise is 8-1. No at all 17-2. 10-1 bar. Any surprises seeing those prices coming out, Andy?
No surprises in the sense that bookmakers tend to, like they do most races in this fashion, group races and conditions races, let's say, they price them up on ratings, don't they? They've got a tissue almost to build upon, looking at Group 1 form, Group 2 form, looking at their ratings, think, well, we'll price them up in line to how the official handicapper would price them up, as it were. But that doesn't necessarily mean to say they're always right. I do think there might be a little bit of value to be had in this race. I'd certainly respect Peaceful and, of course, Fancy Blue, who have been plying their trade in Group 1 level. Fancy Blue won in France and then won, of course, the Nassau at Goodwood. So she's definitely the right favourite, there's no doubt about that. But I've got a huge amount of time for a horse called Know It All. It's probably not on the tip of the tongue of most UK punters because she's predominantly running Ireland. In fact, she's running Ireland throughout of her career. But she took on board Group 1 company last time out at Deauville, and although she got beat by the very good filly Watch Me, the ground would probably not been absolutely ideal for her, and she may have just hit the front a little bit too soon. The race didn't pan out the way they would have liked, but she does run this Leopardstown track really well. She virtually should be unbeaten in this track. She managed to get a due rewards for a terrible bit of luck in running first time out when she got beat by Lovelock. She should have won that day, but next time out she was very, very good when she won the Derringstown Stud. That was Group 3 status. Cruised through the race, was always in control, quickened up really well. Certainly didn't beat a stellar field, but, you know, So Wonderful was in there, and she's gone on to frank the form several times subsequently. So there was a bit of substance to it. She's got to prove herself at this level, there's no doubt about that, but she's a lovely filly, and that Murtercat stable is continuing to chug along quite nicely. Could have done with a better draw, still 10. That's not ideal, but I do like her. I think she's a very good filly, know it all.
Know it all at 17-2. The final one there over in Ireland. Make sure you follow Andy's tips because his Irish stuff is superb, and we really should speak to you more often about it. But you'll find them every morning in his column, and I'm so sure you have plenty over there on Saturday and Sunday, won't you?
Oh, no doubt, yeah. I mean, I always like to throw in a couple of Irish horses in amongst the mix, yeah. Had a nice winner yesterday. It was called Aztec Parade. He looks a nice colt going forward, yes. So, yeah, the Irish stuff keeps me ticking along when the UK stuff's a bit quiet.
Well, I'm sure it's not going to be quiet this weekend. Thank you very much, Andy, as ever, for joining us and sharing your wisdom. As I mentioned, it's now getting towards midday on Thursday, and we've been recording this as the fields are announced, so we can get it over to you as soon as possible. And fingers crossed, the prices have held up. I've been watching the kind of prices emerge as we've been speaking. In State of Rest, Andy, you'll be amazed to hear, opened with William Hill at 22-1. It's already into 20s, but you may have to act fast to get on that one.
20s is that is just ridiculous. Yeah, he's not. That's just a classic case of bookmakers not knowing a horse, his form and how they run in certain races. They've just looked at his rating and looked at where he finished. But like I say, you need to watch the videos. You need to have a feel of what kind of level that horse is run to, or what he's capable of running to next time. And yeah, he should be half those odds.
There you go. And Chindit, you mentioned that fours wouldn't last. Correct. Now best price 3-1. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining us as ever. Do follow Andy's tips. They are fantastic every day, and the best way to find them, the best place to find them, is the oddschecker app. Download it now for the very best free bets, the best prices, crucially, the best bookie offers, all the place terms, and of course, the very best tipsters. I've been your host, George Elek, and please do subscribe to our more of this preview content across all sports as well. We did a Premier League preview just a couple of days ago with Jonathan Wilson and Martin Lawrence from Who Scored, which I thought was good viewing, even if I did host it myself. And if you're interested in football, do watch that. And there'll be plenty more racing stuff coming up through the year as well. Please do enjoy the racing. Fingers crossed we've given you some winners. And please ensure, crucially, most importantly, that you do gamble responsibly.